Okay, so what
Oh,
we're
I want to see what the cloud. It goes straight there. Oh, you made the choice. Sorry.
okay.
Thanks, Susan.
Hey, Susan. Okay, so we'll first take a look at how we can very simply and easily enroll participants in a course. And so this is probably what you would see once you have logged into True North Logic and you click on Module 3 and you have choices of various sections. And obviously we are working with cohorts 3 and 4. So if our objective is to enroll a participant or participants, we're going to click on this downward arrow here, and we're going to go to View Roster. And once we do that, we're going to, first of all, if we have several participants we want to add, we're going to click on Add Learner Advanced, and then in a minute I'll show how we can just do a single participant. And through the years, we have found that it is much easier to find the folks who we want to enroll in the system by using their email address. And that's why it's so important that when you're gathering names for folks who want to be enrolled in the course, that you have asked for not only their name, but their email address. And so that's how we're going to be enrolling folks. So I'm going to click email address, and then we have this box over here that allows us to input identifiers. And so basically at that point, let me minimize just a little bit. I'm going to go to the Excel file that has the list of names and email addresses. And I'm just going to highlight, copy, and then I'll come back over here. And then I can just put those in. And then click preview once you have your email addresses. And then everybody, for the most part, shows up. And we would click on Add 5 users. And once you click that button, they're in the course. Now, you may have this situation like we see with Anne, where the email doesn't pop up. And typically if that happens, I do some different ways of searching, like for their first name, their last name, because maybe they're still in there under a previous LEA. Maybe the email address is just simply incorrect. And so I'll fiddle with it a little bit by using the next method that I'll show you. Or I'll just let the person know who is the contact for that LEA that these people were not found. Could they potentially have a different email address other than the one that we've been given? But that's a very quick and simple, easy way to enroll folks using the Add Learner Advanced feature. And we would just click this button here and they'd all be in. Okay, now I'm going to give my colleagues a chance to comment. Was anything unclear, or do we need to do anything in addition to what I just showed you as far as when we're going to add a group of people using their email addresses?
Angie, I've never tried that, but I'm trying that right now because I actually had some people to add. So
you just try it out, and then Bailey, and give us some. Hopefully, it'll work out great. Now,
Angie,
yeah.
When we put them in, I can't. It's been a while. Do we have to put a comma between their names, or is it just?
No, I literally just copied.
Does it seem like I copied and pasted like out of an Excel and posted it in there? It's that simple, right?
It's that simple. Yeah. And I've already talked to Amanda about this. I want Lynn to move forward with her plan of doing what she just said she was going to do. But once everyone has gathered their names on the Google form after their regional networking meeting, I'm just going to tell them to give them all to me and I can just do it. You just saw how simple it was. And it would probably be just easier if I do everybody's for them, you know. But Lynn, you keep on keeping on. But even though I'm going to do all of the mass enrollment, I know that every now and again, you're going to be contacted by an LEA saying, I have this new member on my team. Can you please add them? And I don't want you to have to always take time to contact me. So when you have a single person that you would like to add, you can also, you can still do it the way we just did, using their email address. Or if they just give you a name, you can simply click on Add Learner, which is obviously to the left of the selection we just looked at. And then you would just type their name in and then search. And then you would select that person if they've given you the name in which they use to get into True North Logic. So that's another quick way. Again, I think if you just want to make sure you're going to have your first best try, I would always use the first method, because you can still use that method with a single name. And so it's a much more accurate search if you're searching through their email address. And so even if it's a single person, let's say someone wants to add Angel Bats, well, give me their email address and I'll put them in, and I can just do the same thing, preview, and then I'm going to add her. And you'll probably tell me she's already in there. Okay, and so she's in there. So that's just another way. If you just have their name, you can just add learner, the basic one, and try it and see if that works. But again, the best, quickest, most accurate way is to do the add learner advanced and use their email address. So that is the way to enroll participants. Again, anything else that I need to add before we go into putting them into groups, friends? Oh, mine. Okay.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you. Alrighty. So once we're finished with that, it is, if you ever add anyone or enroll anyone to the course, it is essential. It is so important. Are you getting the passion in my voice about this? It's very important that we immediately put them in a group, because if we don't put them in a group, they're unable to post on the discussion boards. So they start posting in the water cooler, and then other people see that they've posted in the water cooler, so they will post there too, and it just becomes a real mess. So I want to show you now how, once a person or a group of people have been enrolled, how you add them to a group. And so I'm going to go back to this main screen.
Can I ask a question before?
Yeah.
So I understand the importance of grouping the folks.
Yeah.
But what if it's like people who are like, hey, I have a new member to my team and I want them in all the courses, like historically. Like if it's old module 1 or old module 2 and people are in there like active, is it still imperative that I group them, or is it less imperative?
Well, I always do, simply because I want them to be able to view the post on the discussion boards. And I don't think they have access to them.
Oh,
they don't. So I do for that reason. However, obviously it's not quite as important, because most likely they're not going to be interacting at that point. But I always just do it, just as a rule of thumb.
I'll quit taking shortcuts. Thank you.
Okay. If you don't do it, it's not the end of the world. Like it is obviously the end of the world if you don't do it when we're first enrolling people. Okay. Alrighty. So having said that, we'll go back here and take a look at how we can put folks in a group if we ever have enrolled someone ourselves. And so that's going to have us going to the drop-down button next to cohorts 3 and 4 in this situation. And navigate section would be the selection. I wish I could get back the hours of my life that I've spent watching that little dot go to the left and to the right, waiting for the next screen. And anyway, all right. So this is where it gets a little tricky. In order to get into groups, you're going to click on users, which is in the administration block, the navigation block on the left. And once you do that, it's going to expand as you see here. And so we will find groups and we will click on groups. And I want to add Angel to the North Central. So I'm going to highlight that group, and I'm going to come over here to the right and click on Add Remove Users. Okay. And so I'm going to search for Angel because that's who I just added. Not Angela, but Angel. There she is. And I'm going to highlight her name, and I'm going to click Add, and she will be added to the group. Okay. Now, that's just if I've like just added one person and I need to quickly get her in there before she starts posting in the water cooler. However, if for some reason I've added several people, and that could very well happen, I don't anticipate it happening as much if I'm going to be doing all of that. I'm going to, let's just say I just added all these people from Ashe County. And so is Ashe West, Lynn? Anyway.
I'm muted. No, Ash is Northwest.
Let's pretend they're West. And so I'm like, I added 7 people to the West, and I don't want to search just by, that name. So if you see here, you can see there's a box highlight filled in, a radio button filled in, match the text anywhere in the displayed fields. And so I can just type in Ashe, and let's just say I went ahead and actually I'm doing it. I should do it over here. I would do Ashe. And if I had folks enrolled in Ashe, they would all just automatically show up here. I could click on all of them and add all of them at once. Okay. And so I don't think that's going to be an issue for our team simply because I will be doing the bulk ads. But if for some reason you've just added a group of folks from one LEA, you can search for them using a part of their email address. Usually that the name of the LEA is included somewhere in there, and they would all show up, and you could just click on them all at once and add them.
I just did that, and that was amazing. I didn't know about that.
That was Amy Miller's discovery, and it was a beautiful thing.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yeah.
Right.
That's great.
So anyway, so that's how you're going to add folks to groups. And certainly that's something if you need help with, I can do that face to face. But I think the main point to remember there is simply you find it under users. And to me, that was probably the least intuitive part of this process is remembering you go to the administration block, click on users, click on groups, and then you see what we see now. And you would highlight whatever group you're adding your folks to and add and remove users. And then you're either going to search for the name or search for the LEA or the portion, I should say, of the email address that would allow them all to show up at once if you're doing more than one. Okay. Guys, anything else that I need to add for clarity's sake? We're all good.
Good. Mm-hmm.
All good.
All right. Okay. So good rule of thumb is don't add anyone if you don't have time to put them in a group at that time. Wait until you have time to do both. Okay. I mean that stuff. All right. So that's the very basics of how to enroll folks and put them into groups. And so what I want to do now is walk you through how we can check participation in the course for certain folks. Every now and then you'll have a coordinator asking you, hey, can you tell me how my team is doing in the course? And so that would, of course, require you as a regional consultant to have a list of your teams and the participants under each team, so you know who to look for. But in order to find and this is where it gets really weird, in order to find the participation levels of folks. You're going to click on My Courses, which is really strange. And then you're going to not find what you're looking. Oh yeah. Once you click on My once you click on My Courses, you're going to see participants. Hopefully you will not see such a long laundry list that I have. I think yours would be a lot easier. But My Courses, which seems really a strange place for participants to be living under, but it does. Click on Participants once you've expanded that My Courses in the top left-hand navigation block. And then it'll just take a minute. And once you click on Participants, you're going to have an opportunity to see all of the participants there. And so you can either, there's a couple of different things, and some of you might have gotten a little bit fancier with this, and so feel free to add to it. But if I'm looking at the list of folks in, let's say Brunswick County, because I see Michael there, and I want to see how they're doing. Well, the first person on the list that I have for Brunswick County just happens to be Michael Makish. And so I'm going to click on M so I can pull him up. I'm going to stare at the dots. Okay. And so here's the guy I want. So I'm going to click on his name. And then I'm going to, once I find him, you see here, yeah, here's his profile. I'm going to go to Outline Report over here under Reports. I'm going to click on Outline Report. Okay, and then once I do that, I can see how active Michael's been in the course. And so I can see that he's gone through the orientation, that he has viewed the pages in module 3.1. And typically that's the request we get most often is, okay, we're getting ready to meet on our 3.1 work. Could you tell me how my team is doing in that section of the course? And so, you know, I'd be able to say, hey, Michael's done a great job in 3.1. He's viewed all the pages. And that type of thing. So, you know, depending on what you're looking for, if it's a during the course type situation, you can go in and just look at whatever block we're currently operating in for that. Now, do you guys do it differently? Because I know there's a way to look at everybody at once with check marks under what they've accomplished with course completion. Quite honestly, I think if it's a regional consultant that's looking at a particular team's performance in the course, this might be easier to do it the way I just demonstrated, but I'm open to other suggestions if you guys want me to navigate through any other views.
I think this is the one I struggle with the most, is that I can never remember how to get back to it. And this is the only one I ever have any success with.
Right, because there's like a couple of different things, and they're new. I mean, because once they updated Moodle, like there's a way for us to look at overall course completion now that we set course completion. But like I said, I think that would end up taking more time than doing it participant by participant, just because we have so many ultimately have so many participants in the course. It would be a lot to wade through. So right now I'm going to stick with this demonstration, and then if we have requests or someone saying I'm doing this a lot easier, let's show everyone. I'll do that then. But at this point, I think this is kind of where I'm going to land on course.
Yes, Susan, you're not alone in that. It's the same struggle I have as well.
Right. So, and it goes back to, it's just a weird spot for them to put it. But so if we're looking for rate of participation in the course, we're going to have to click on that top navigation block. Okay. And it's My Courses, and we're clicking on Participants. Okay. And that's where we see the list. And so I might be looking for Beth Devereaux. I just made that name up. I don't know if we have any BDs, but I use the steps initial. There is no Beth Devereaux. She's never been in there, but you get the idea. And then you would click on the name of the person that you're trying to check for, and doing it that way, for sure. So that's how you check on course completion rates. And I think that another key thing to remember, and I will certainly try to put this in some sort of document or writing, so folks don't have to listen to the recording, but I think the best practice for me, and I'd be interested to see what you guys think, but it's always been important for me to have the name of the LEA and the name of the participants in the course, so that if we do have any requests for how's my team doing, I have that information. And so I would always create Google Docs that had the section like 3.1 and then the pages that they were expected to cover, and I would just highlight that cell so that I could send that very quickly to the coordinator that was asking for it, so she could see. Anybody else do that in a different way?
I'll share one of mine, Angie, in the chat window, and then the same concept. I just have a little table with their names and what they need to be doing.
Right. And then we can include that, and I'll put this all together in one thing. So, obviously I've sent out what we talked about today in pieces and parts. And so I'll just try to put it all together in one package. So that folks have it all in one spot. So that's the logistics in terms of enrolling, grouping, and then looking for progress. But I do want to quickly point out how the course itself is organized and how I organize communication around these sections of the course. Sound good to everybody? Okay. And so what we have typically in the course are 2 2-week chunks of information within each section. So let me zero out just a little bit. First of all, I need to change 2017 to 2018. That'll be important. But we have the overall date range of the course at the top of the section. And then they have an orientation section. And so what we're going to do is go ahead and enroll them before September 4th, so that they have time to get in there and navigate through the orientation. So for some people, this will be the third time going through the orientation. So we just kind of we'll stress, and we'll have the learning checklist that goes along with each of these pages, and emphasize the assignment, which is to make their introduction, which is the main point of that. So they'll have a chance to do that before the course is scheduled to begin. So once the course begins, we've sectioned this off into 4 main sections, and I think everyone's gone through the walkthrough of the previous 2 modules, so you kind of get how this works. But we have module 3.1, and it consists of 2 weeks of content where they are going through and they're reading and viewing information regarding the system requirements, or what we've typically talked about as establishing readiness. It's kind of the same thing. So they would have 2 weeks of content, and then they have, in this situation, they just have a couple of weeks to get together with their team and complete the meeting and the discussion, or the team assignment for that 2-week span. So we try very hard to make sure that we give them 2 weeks to read and view individually, and then we give them sometimes a week, sometimes 2 weeks to either complete an individual assignment or make sure they get together as a team and complete the team assignment. And so we've learned by doing this that they prefer to not have reading and viewing assignments during the same span of time in which they're expected to submit an assignment, whether it's a team or an individual assignment, so that they don't get confused. So you'll see that pattern repeated throughout the remaining sections of this module. But that's the general sort of distribution of learning that we have in each of the modules. And so in terms of communication, each time we have a 2-week span coming up, I'll make sure I begin that week with a post on the discussion board. And every time I post to that discussion board, it the participants get an automatic email, which is a copy of that post. And so we try not to over communicate. And so that's just a typical rule of thumb. Every 2 weeks, they're going to get a course announcement that they also have, depending on their settings, have emailed to them. Okay. Is that clear, or is that muddy as all get out?
Clear, Ange?
Clear,
That's
crystal?
good.
Okay. All right. So here you have an example of what we're talking about in terms of structure. 2 weeks here to read and view, and then 2 weeks to get together with your team and complete the assignment, meet, convene, and do a team assignment. That's the example in 3.1. Okay. All right. And then they get into module 3.2, which is our next section of reading and viewing. And so you can see that pattern reflected again. Each section, as you've probably all experienced, has its own learning checklist, so they can keep track of their completion rates. And then they also have the reflection journal that goes with each section. So in this case, we have 2 weeks of reading and viewing. And then in module 3.2, they have a week to complete an individual assignment. But again, we're going to make sure there's no other reading and viewing pages that they're going to have to deal with. They know that that's just the week to post. And then you can see here we go to our next 2 week segment of reading and viewing. And then in this case, we have some time for them to get together and meet as a team and complete their team assignment. Okay. And I'm not going to keep repeating that. Just know that that's the that's the pattern. That's the distribution we came up with. And each time there's a new chunk or that's represented in these orange titles, they're going to receive a course announcement letting them know, okay, this is a posting week, or this is what you have to look forward to in the next 2 weeks of reading and viewing. And then we give sort of an overview of the content. And then we've also given them little breaks in between each of we typically would give them a break in between each of the sections, but in module 3, because it's only going half or what we would consider one semester, I don't think we did that. In this one, we did give them a Christmas break, I think. Actually, we did because it's over at Christmas. But anyway, I just thought it might be interesting to you to kind of have an explicit explanation of how we divided the course and how we go about communicating around that. All right, ladies, anything else you can think of?
Angie, I did add one more link in the chat, and it's related to 2 things that were said. One that Susan talked about, just when you're adding a person, later, maybe that wasn't part of the original team or engagement in the course. And one thing that I did because of that, and then kind of what you were talking about with the post, but I just started creating a document only when that was needed, but where I was cutting and pasting posts from the course for different teams, so that that new person that was maybe just enrolled could at least come to the table to a district team meeting with some background knowledge of what had been said within the course from their particular team.
Okay, that's a good idea.
So what I've linked there is just cut and pasted posts.
Okay, I'm copying them and I'll paste it so I can make sure I put it in that overall document. Jen, we could leave off the year, but that still doesn't change the fact that I always have to change it by a day each year. I think once we finish 3.4, we leave it open. If we just want to have this as we're going to have it as a self-paced. We're just not going to put dates on it, period. But just because this is unique to them, it probably wouldn't make a big difference. But on the self-paced courses, we're not going to put any dates on there, obviously. All right. All right, guys, anything else that I've not covered or that was confusing that I need to go back over?
Angie, I know one thing that I need that I have a question about is when I get to, putting people in groups, and let's say I was going to do that, right, for multiple districts. Is there a simple way to get back to like the home page where I am going to go back and add people, because you've gone from.
Oh yeah, that's a pain. That is difficult. So there is a shorter way than what we typically do. So what Lynn's talking about is once we get in the course, we can't get back to that screen that allows us to select whether we're going to view roster or navigate section. Like at this point, we're in Moodle. And so the best way to quickly get back to the screen that allows you to look at all the courses and do the drop down menus and manage and that type of thing is to come all the way to the bottom where you see, oh shoot, let me share my screen again.
Okay.
Just imagine what I'm doing. Okay, let me make sure I share the right one. Okay, sorry. Are you seeing it now, guys?
Yeah.
All right, so this is all of module 3. And I'm scrolling all the way down, and you see what on the bottom, you have these Moodle docs for this page. You are logged in as Angie Cloninger. And then there's a little log out. If you click on that, and it's really interesting because it doesn't always do the exact same thing, but if you click on log out, you'll get back to the place where like, okay, now I need to view roster because I also need to enroll. Okay, and so often if you're doing different groups of people and you want to make sure you've gone ahead and just put that first group in groups, you have to obviously navigate section and go to the actual Moodle course, but then you have another group waiting over here that you need to now enroll. That's the best way to do it, what we just saw. So let me see if I can kind of go back again. So in this, shoot. Hold on a minute. And they don't let you bookmark that NC Ed sign-in thing, which is kind of frustrating. Sorry, guys. But that was a really nice trick Gitanjali showed us because it is difficult and cumbersome often if you've gone into Moodle and you've grouped the folks that you just enrolled, and you now you have to enroll some more people after you've grouped the previous set of folks. It's difficult. So what you would do is, and this is probably something folks would need to call me back on, but Lynn, particularly, I think you can connect with what I'm saying. Have you noticed that it's not True North Logic anymore? They have a new name.
Yeah.
I noticed that.
Just when you said it, I noticed.
Yeah. Sorry to go through all this. I'll cut this out. But so basically what Lynn's talking about is, let's just say she just enrolled all of Buncombe County. And once she enrolled them, she said, oh gosh, I better put them in groups because that's important. So in order to put them in groups, she had to get into the course, which is what you're seeing here. Okay. And then she put them in groups. Remember, she had to do the users and all that good stuff. But then she's like, okay, now I need to enroll Asheville City. So how do I get back to that screen that has me viewing the roster? And so there's no way to get back to that screen when you're here without logging out of Moodle. And so Lynn, that's what I was showing you. So at the very bottom, there's just a quick log out, and that'll get you directly back here. Otherwise, you have to like just X out and go through that.
That works. Thank you so much. I just did that, so I was. Yeah. That's
Okay. And that's for everyone else. That's probably for another day. Anything
Okay.
else, guys?
No,
Okay.
it's good.
Like I said, I think I'll just go ahead and ask everyone to give me their forms, and I'll enroll everybody. But there'll be a time when you probably need to do one or two on your own. So you'll have this to go by. All right. Well, thanks for your time this morning.
Okay.
Anything else, folks? We're good.
thank you Angie, for
That's
doing
good.
this.
All right.
Angie, can you stay on for just one more second?